Alright. Welcome back to NeuroClarity, the podcast that brings clinical neurology into sharp focus, one case at a time. I am your host, Onowori Victor, and today we are diving deep into a fascinating and often overlooked cerebrovascular condition, CADASIL. CADASIL stands for Cerebral Autosomal Dominant Arteriopathy with Subcortical Infarct and Leukoencephalopathy. Phew, that was a long one. Whether you're a medical student preparing for the boards or you're a resident decoding unexplained strokes, this one is going to be rich, clear, and unforgettable. Our cases are derived from Ching and Cheng's comprehensive review of clinical neurology. We are currently in chapter 2 and we've done questions 1 to 59. This is question 60. That being said, let us start with our case. A 52-year-old patient with a history of migraines and multiple mini strokes is being treated with aspirin. He presents with a new pure motor stroke and the MRI shows multiple subcortical lacunes and diffuse white matter changes. Routine stroke workup is negative and he does not have a history of diabetes, hypertension or hyperlipidemia. He is discharged and gets lost to follow up, coming back about 3 years later for evaluation of dementia. His wife reported that the patient has 3 siblings who had stroke at young ages and his father also had strokes and developed dementia early in life. The patient ultimately dies and an autopsy is performed with a histopathological specimen of his brain shown in figure 2.17. Let us take a look at the specimen. Which of the following is correct regarding this? A. It is autosomal recessive. B. Parkinsonism is a classic feature. C. It is associated with NOTCH3 mutation. D. It is an X-linked disorder. And E. Migraine headaches are not associated with this condition. Let us take a look at our specimen again. What do you think? 90% of the time, a good clinical history will give you the right diagnosis. So, let us start with the patient. We have a 52-year-old man with a history of migraines and several mini strokes, likely transient ischemic attacks or lacunar strokes. We are told that he presents with a pure motor stroke. An MRI shows multiple subcortical lacunes and diffuse white matter changes. Now, you did a routine stroke workup and it was completely negative. There's no hypertension, no diabetes, and no hyperlipidemia. That sounds suspicious, right? Well, fast forward 3 years later and he returns with dementia, and now we are getting the game-changing family history. Siblings with early strokes and a father who developed vascular dementia. We are now told that at autopsy, the pathology shows a small vessel with thickened walls containing basophilic granular material. Putting the pieces together, this screams CADASIL. Let's unpack this acronym. CADASIL, like we said, stands for Cerebral Autosomal Dominant Arteriopathy with Subcortical Infarct and Leukoencephalopathy. And this is the most common hereditary cause of stroke and vascular dementia in adults. The condition affects small cerebral arteries, leading to recurrent lacunar infarct, white matter hyperintensities on T2 MRI, and progressive cognitive decline. You also have pseudobulbar palsy, emotional liability, and migraine with aura. Let's talk about genetics and pathology. It is inherited in an autosomal dominant fashion, hence the name Cerebral Autosomal Dominant. Autosomal dominant. And the gene involved is the NOTCH3 on chromosome 19. This gene codes for a transmembrane receptor that is found in vascular smooth muscle cells. Mutation of this gene leads to the accumulation of granular osmophilic material, aka gum, in the walls of small arteries, especially in the brain. If you take a look at our pathology slide, you will see arteriolar thickening with basophilic granular material in the medial. This is the hallmark of CADASIL. Think of these deposits as toxic clutter. They damage the wall of the blood vessel, they impair autoregulation, and they predispose to infarct and leukoencephalopathy. Radiologically, CADASIL has some textbook clues on MRI. You tend to see T2 stroke flare hyperintensities in the anterior temporal lobes, which is highly specific, the external capsule, and the periventricular white matter. You will also see lacunes in the basal ganglia, thalamus, and the deep white matter, which is classic for small vessel disease. Common misconceptions which we have to clear right now include the following. 1. Parkinsonism is not a typical feature. 2. It is not autosomal recessive. 3. It is not X-linked. And lastly, migraines, especially with aura, are common in CADASIL and are often the first presenting symptom in young adults. So, the correct answer to our clinical question is C. It is associated with NOTCH3 mutation. How do we confirm our diagnosis? Diagnosis can be confirmed by genetic testing, where you will see the mutation in NOTCH3. You can also do a skin biopsy, which shows granular osmophilic materials, which is the GMO, in arterioles. Unfortunately, there is no curative treatment and management is symptomatic. Basically, you can give aspirin for secondary prevention. You need to avoid thrombolytics unless it's absolutely necessary, and you do supportive care for cognitive and psychiatric symptoms. It's important to note that steroids and immunosuppressive won't help in this case. It is not a vasculitis. Let's do a quick rapid fire recall. CADASIL is due to a NOTCH3 mutation which causes thickened small arteries, leading to strokes and dementia. On histology, you see granular deposits in the vessel wall. The inheritance is autosomal dominant, and on MRI, you tend to see T2 hyperintensities in the anterior temporal lobe. Migraine with aura in a young adult with a family history of stroke, think CADASIL. Thanks for tuning in to NeuroClarity. If this case helped you see the full picture from gene to gray matter, you can share with a friend, drop a review, like, and subscribe. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep your neurons firing. Bye for now.